All right, so we're ready on Zoom and that's okay. So I'm going to call the meeting to order today. The regular meeting of the Leeward Planning Commission will now come to order. It's Thursday, July 18th, 2024, and the time is 9:38. This meeting is being streamed live on YouTube. I'd just like to introduce the commissioners here. We have Vice Chair Mahina Paishan Duarte.
Aloha.
Commissioner Dean Au.
Good morning.
Commissioner Donna Noborikawa.
Aloha.
Commissioner Armando Rodriguez.
Good morning.
Commissioner CJ Kanuha is absent and Commissioner Michael De La Cruz is absent. I am Chair Barbara DeFranco and we have a quorum to hold the meeting. We have the Deputy Corporation Counsel, Susanna Tripola, on her way. She's having car problems this morning. She will join us probably about 10:30. She is the attorney for the commission who is present to advise us. On Zoom today, we have representing the Planning Department, Planning Director Zendo Kern. And we also have Deputy Corporation Counsel Jean Campbell, attorney for the Planning Department. Okay. And just to comply to Sunshine Law, I just want to make sure that all the commissioners can confirm they've reviewed the materials related to the applications being reviewed today. Please say yes or
Aye. Aye.
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
I note that each commissioner has verbally confirmed having had an opportunity to review the application materials and submitted testimony. Just a little bit of housekeeping. Make sure that all your cell phones are turned off and silenced. The public restrooms and the drinking fountains are available outside the entrance doors and to the right. If there's anyone here in person who would like to testify, please fill out the yellow sign-up form at the staff table. Also, if you have any written testimony that has not been sent in earlier, you may submit it to the staff. So we move to the approval of the minutes, the review and approval of the June 20th, 2024 Leeward Planning Commission minutes. I need a motion to Commissioner
So moved.
Duarte. Okay.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Noborikawa. Okay, so there's no other corrections. So we're going to move on. As it is stated in the published agenda, members of the public may provide public testimony regarding any agenda item now or at the time the agenda item is called to order. Testifiers on Zoom, please keep your video camera off and audio muted until you are called by the Zoom host to speak. Please note that this is an in-person meeting and the Zoom platform and YouTube live stream are provided as a courtesy. Before we start to receive public testimony pursuant to Rule 1-5 of the Planning Commission's Rules of Practice and Procedure, I would like to remind everyone to be courteous and respectful of all testifiers, staff members, and commissioners. Please direct all testimony to me as the chair, and testimony will be limited to 3 minutes per testifier for each agenda item. Thank you. So are there any in-person testifiers that want to testify now? Or do you want to testify when the agenda item is called? So it looks like when the agenda items are called is when you're going to testify. And on Zoom, is there anybody who wants to testify now?
Yes, we have four
Exactly.
signed up. We have
Yeah.
4 signed up, but only 3.
We can't hear you.
We have 4 that are signed up, but 3 are online right now, ready to sign up at the beginning of the meeting.
Okay, then let's get them on and we'll raise your right hand.
Okay, we have a E. Kalani Flores. Please turn your camera on. Pua Case, please turn your camera on. And Nawahini Kahopili, please turn your camera on.
I'm getting a message. This is Kalani Flores saying that you can't start your video because the host has stopped it.
Okay, hold on. And we've got, okay,
Okay, thank you.
okay.
Was there one more, Mr. Roy?
We have a Roger Meeker signed up, but he has not entered yet. So we'll move on. And if he comes in,
Okay.
I'll let you know.
If you would both just raise your right hand and please swear to affirm to tell the truth on this matter now before the Leeward Planning Commission.
I do.
So first would be E. Kalani Flores.
Okay. And you would just state the town that you reside in and begin your testimony. And are you doing it on 2 agenda items, 1 agenda item? It's
Aloha,
3
and
each
aloha,
agenda.
Chair and Commissioners. I'll be testifying on agenda items 3 and 4 for today.
Okay, so you have 6 minutes. Mr. Roy, will you please, who is starting?
Ms. Flores would be
Ms.
first. Or
Mr.
Mr. Flores. Yep, sorry, Mr. Flores.
Oh, please begin, Mr. Flores.
Okay, thank you. Aloha and Chair and Commissioners. My name is E. Kalani Flores. I reside in Waimea, a few blocks from the proposed project, which is on agenda items 3 and 4 today. I am here in opposition of this project and I've submitted testimony on several occasions as to why. But let me just go over the matter of this, especially for commissioners who are new to this. This actually agenda items came before this particular planning commission in June 15th in 2023. And at that time, the matter was not, they did not have sufficient, or I should say, they did not have favorable vote for this project. So the project had an unfavorable vote for both items as such. And then it later appeared and was deferred. Later appeared in the August meeting, August 9th in 2023, in which we also submitted testimony. And then a few days before, the applicant requested deferral of this project from the agenda items, or from the commission meeting, I should say. And then in their correspondence, which is in your folder, and a correspondence was submitted from their representative from Carl Smith Ball, and was submitted by Catherine Garson on August 7th to the 2023 to the commission. And it says the applicant wishes to defer this matter, and it says the quote, the applicant continues to address the community concerns, which may include slight modifications to its site plan, end of quote. However, none of that occurred. There has been no interaction or engagement with the community. There's no changes with this plan at all. And so when you really look at it, according to the county code, the planning commission needs to make a valid vote within 90 days after receipt of an application from the planning director. Well, it's been over a year. And so here we have this same item back on the agenda again. It came to your June meeting, and there was an unfavorable vote to move this project forward. And then here we're back again, July 18th meeting. So how many times does this project have to keep coming forward? There has been significant opposition from this project from the community. And several of the things is it's just an overdevelopment of this project. They're planning 3 huge commercial buildings. It's not like if they just put 1 building, no, they're planning 3 buildings. Basically, this is a speculation project, as you can see. The county code says it's not consistent with the county code when it comes about speculation for upzoning of projects as such. This is prime ag land that they want to take out and to make it into this massive commercial project. It's actually like a strip mall in the middle, right in the middle of Waimea town. The county code and I should say the general plan and other plans for the South Kohala development plan tells specifically the concentration of commercial activity should be in the middle of the Waimea town center. The middle of Waimea town center, if familiar, is where the Parker Ranch shopping center is and the Waimea shopping center is. That's the core commercial area. Now this project is spreading out and taking that urban sprawl and commercialization and overdevelopment out from the town center, which is not consistent with the plans put forth by the county. In addition to that, you're taking out prime agricultural lands and you commercializing it. There's also part of the project includes rezoning the back end of the project to these ag lots. The developer has said that this is going to be affordable housing. This is not going to be affordable housing. The developer has made no commitment to make these affordable. They're going to be high-end development estate type properties, supposedly under the disguise of ag, and going to be sold as such. Local families will not be able to afford any such thing. These are not affordable properties that are being developed in the back residential portion of the project as proposed. And the front end of the project is overdeveloped. It's three separate parcels. The developer is in the, this developer has worked on other projects as such. And when you look at the comments that have been in supportive of this project, it's basically been the business associates or realtors associated with the developer. There's been overwhelming opposition from this project, not just island-wide, but particularly from Waimea. Waimea residents, Honoka'a residents, Waikoloa residents, Kauai residents are opposed to this project. It will increase in traffic congestion in this area, which is already a situation of problem. The project it does not fit into the plans for Waimea. It's too big, too massive. And we ask that as such that this commission just reject this project for the third time. This is actually the third time and this commission is voting on this project. And there has been no changes in the project at all by the developer to meet community concerns. There's no changes in this project. It's the same application that was here a year ago. So once again, I just ask humbly for the commissioners to listen to the
30 seconds.
Listen to the concerns of the community and just reject this project for the third time. And that's like to say, thank you folks for allowing me to provide in testimony today. Mahalo.
Thank you for your testimony. To the next speaker, please. Mr.
That
Roy.
would be Pua Case.
Ms. Case, go ahead, please. You're speaking on both agenda items. Three.
Yeah, you need to unmute Ms. Case, and she will be speaking on both agenda item 3 and 4.
Okay, so you'll have 3 minutes for each item. Thank you.
If she's not ready, I'm not sure where she went. Oh,
Here she is. Okay. Hi. Aloha. You have to unmute, please unmute. Maybe she's getting some technical problems. Okay, good.
You're unmuted, but we can't hear you.
You have to unmute yours.
Nope, she's unmuted for some reason, but we can't hear her.
Okay. Oh.
I'm sorry, Ms. Case, we still can't hear you for some reason.
In this case, we have 4 testifiers that want to testify now at the beginning of the meeting here in person. So we'll do those and I'll come back to you. Maybe then we can figure out what's happening. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Okay. This
we have a Mark DeRusse who,
Mark.
oh, I'm sorry. No, he wants to, when the agenda item is called. I'm sorry.
Okay. So,
and that's it for right now for at the beginning of the meeting.
all right. Thank you. So this is another pink one that the people here signed up for. One is a Michael Matakawa and John Kawano. Can you come forward, please? Did you want to speak at the beginning of the meeting? Okay, good. See, please come up. And Mr. Matsukawa, you know how to turn this little thing on? Yeah, push that button and Mr. Kaiwana, you have to push this button when it's your turn to speak. I'm just going to ask you both to raise your right hands and swear to tell the truth in front of the Planning Commission today. I do.
I do.
And when it's your turn, just state your name, the town you live in, and what items you're speaking on.
My name is Michael Matsukawa. I live in Captain Cook Corner. I'm an attorney, and I'm speaking for Mr. Benjamin Garfinkel, who is not able to attend the meeting, but I believe he sent some testimony in. And the subject of my testimony is on items 3 and 4, and it's more a procedural technical question. And I understand that there was a vote taken on the rezoning measure 521, which had therefore a negative recommendation. And so the first point is the item is now listed on the agenda a second time. So like Mr. Flores was saying, since the commission took a vote the last time, isn't that over with? Which leaves only the state land use boundary change for review. Now, I understand that there was a 3-3 vote or less than a 4 vote on a recommendation for or against. And the charter does refer to the votes on a matter where the commission sits in an advisory capacity, and that a majority of the quorum or majority of those present is sufficient for action. The charter, the county code in this case on the SLU issue calls for a recommendation. Now, there might be a technical point. Does a recommendation require, quote, action, which would then trigger the majority vote question? I've been involved in cases where if on an advisory matter, the proponent has the burden. So if the proponent cannot muster the requisite majority, then the matter ends. So I guess court counsel must have given you advice on this point, but I just wanted to raise it, whether a recommendation on the state land use change is already a matter that is subject to a prior vote, the proponent not carrying the majority, whether the state land use matter failed last meeting, and therefore should not be on the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kaiwana?
Yeah. My name is John Kawano. We're on the Honoka side of the property concern.
I think they turned me on.
I have a question about the front half having 3 TMK numbers, 3 separate entities for this commercial use. I think in the last meeting or the previous, Mr. Metzler said, hey, we got a study done. We're going to move this access to the center of the property to mitigate, the traffic from Earl's and then the traffic from the subdivision down across there. So my question to the county is, if this is the easement for the 3 parcels, how do you provide access for the 2 side parcels? There has to be a legitimate easement for the 2 parcels on each side? Because say, hey, what if, like in the future, this middle property is sold out, and then that easement is solely for that middle property? This owner here goes, hey, I don't want these other 2 properties egressing on my property, yeah? Does the county have to provide, or are they gonna apply for an easement to their properties? So this is the potential, this is my concern. Will this create possibly 3, possibly 6 more egresses to Mamalahoa? That's gonna really affect the traffic, you know, really have an effect on it. And then, I'm going off Mr. Metzler's rendering of the building. So if you have 3 TMKs, does the county require 3 separate septics for each building? 3 separate electrical, to the power for water? That's a question of mine. So it kind of gets complex out here. So when you have 3 utilities, or actually 2, because the septic will be for each building, yeah. But if you have 3 separate electric hookups and water, do you have to put sidewalk on the front, And then that's kind of a concern too, is when you put the sidewalk in the front, then you have issues. It's a floodplain. How are you going to mitigate that water control, So that's my first concern, And then the second concern, say, hey, it's with the backlots. We're going to do, he proposed 5, I believe, 5 residential and ag lots. Does it, how, is it legal, like say, to put I guess you call it a workman's quarters on ag?
What quarter? I'm sorry.
Workman's, they call it
Workman's,
workman's
okay.
quarters. Residential, I believe you can still put ohana, yeah? So does it open up the possibility for 10 dwellings back there? Would the Metzlers consider putting a HOA on that project, So there's still concerns here. And then I'd like to speak out about the people who's been speaking out. Kalani and Pua, his wife, they possess the knowledge of the olis, the chants and the protocols for this moku, yeah. I believe, their knowledge is generations and centuries old. Pomai, who's also testified, is Clay Bertelman's daughter. And, I watched Clay build the makali'i from the ground up. And he's taught so many people about navigation, sailing. Pomai has told us her family goes back 15 generations. So these are the people that's speaking out, yeah. Cece's grandpa, he was the truant officer in Waimea. So, all of my friends go, oh, this is Cece. And I go, Morris Payne's granddaughter. They go, oh, I had to go see Morris Payne. We were Polohe when we were young, So it's just not anyone that's testifying. Yeah, it's the community that's speaking out.
Yeah.
So, we're asking the Metzlers to work with the community. And we just, like Kalani elaborated, I think this is too much for us to deal with. So in closing, I'd like to thank the council for really paying attention to this and really doing their homework. You guys really did your homework on this and listened to us. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you both for your testimonies and your comments. And I think as we go along in this meeting, we will answer those questions for you.
Okay.
Both the county Director Kern is on Zoom, and And we're going to be able to come back to you and answer some of those questions. We'll make sure that they're addressed today.
Okay.
So they've all been noted. So thank you. Does
Right, thank you.
any commissioner have a question for the gentleman here? No. Okay, thank you for your testimony. Mahalo. We have two more people that have signed up that want to testify now. That's CC Davenport and Ladonna Shively. Hi, I'm just going to get you to raise your right hand and swear to tell the truth today before the Leeward Planning Commission. I
Yes.
do, okay. And then I want you to state your name, the town you live in, and the agenda items that you're speaking on, okay? All right. Who would like to start? CC, are you CC Davenport?
Yep. Yes.
Please state your name and start.
My name is Cece Davenport and I live in Waimea, born and raised in Waimea. Good morning, commissioners.
Good morning.
This is maybe my fourth or fifth time testifying. I'm in opposition of this development and of the commercial in front and then
That's agenda item 3 and
yes,
4.
agenda items 3 and 4.
Okay.
Yes, in opposition. I've created a map here that maybe John and maybe LaDonna can hold up so the commissioners can see. It's a map of Waimea and it begins where Merriman's is. And then it comes through town. And then it also begins where the Carter Center is by Waimea School. And then it goes all the way out to the Fish and Hog. So it's a great big triangle. And then it also includes back by the Parker Ranch stables and the arena and Luala'i and the breaking pen. So as you can see, I have little sticky notes here. So all of the the blue stripes, the darker stripes that you see on property here, those are all commercial properties that are either underdeveloped or not developed commercial. And so does everybody know where Foodland is in Waimea? Okay, so you take Foodland, you take First Hawaiian Bank, you take the credit union, you have all of the parking in the front of Foodland and in the back of Foodland. That's 14.25 acres. If you took all of the commercial land zoned currently in Waimea, that's over 90 acres. Now, what's not included in that is I call it the breaking pen lot, which is right across from well, it's right next to Pukalani Stables, between Pukalani and the hospital. So that's 70 acres, and there's 3 designations. It's commercial, ag, and residential. So that's an additional acreage that will be allocated for commercial. And then also the Wakayamas, if everybody knows where the Kamuela liquor store is, that's also 16 acres, ag, residential, commercial. So combined, you have well over 100 acres. That is 6.5 times if you were to multiply the great big Foodland parking lot, center, First Hawaiian, the credit union, that's equivalent to over 6.5 times the amount of commercial space that is already available in Waimea that's either undeveloped or underdeveloped. And what I mean by underdeveloped is commercial property that may have a building, but it's zoned for even additional space that can be built there. There's also many, many office spaces that are already vacant in Waimea that have no tenants. So clearly, it's like asking somebody to take a bucket of sand to the beach. We don't need any more sand at the beach. We don't need any more commercial property in Waimea because there is more than enough that has already been designated commercial. Moving on to the residential part. Well, I'd like to address affordable housing because I'm sure Metzler's legal is going to bring that up. Mark Benioff has already dedicated 258 acres to affordable housing. And recently, in the past month, another 158. He's got a combination of almost 395 acres for affordable housing. Not to mention, if you look on the bottom, now everything in red stripes, that's all residential. Parker Ranch has a parcel by the new Kalani Shudi big park and everything. That's 60 acres. That is residential. That's zoned residential. There's already water allocated there, and there's already wastewater allocated there. I actually have a investor buyer looking to purchase that lot. Next to it is a 2+ acre parcel. And then you move into also where the breaking pen is. That's more residential. That's open for development. Across from that property, between the YMCA and say Pukalani stables, there is it's zoned commercial, but also residential multifamily. And I know for a fact there's a PSA out on that. So there will be an investor coming in and building there. So that's even more housing. That's more affordable housing, because 10% of that needs to be allocated to affordable housing. So you can clearly see by this map that there's more than enough residential that can be developed, not to mention resales that will eventually come on the market as people move in and out and all of that good stuff.
30 seconds, please summarize.
So on the residential, if Mr. Metzler wants to go down to 1/2 acre lots, are you going to allow John Kawano to subdivide? Are you going to allow Benji Garfinkel to subdivide? Are you going to allow Wendell Kawano to subdivide his 15 acres? Harold Kaula to subdivide his 20 acres? The Oys to subdivide theirs? The Kalani Opios? You know, at what point does this end?
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Thank you. Mike, are you a real estate agent?
I am.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions? Thank you. And we have.
Thank you very
the
much.
next- The
Thank
next
you.
speaker,
Thank you,
please.
commissioners.
Ms. Shively, please, Ms. Shively, please, Shively, sorry.
Hi,
Very
okay,
bad.
so my name is
Please.
LaDonna Shipley.
Yeah, the town you live in and what
I live in
agenda items-
Waimea,
And what
Come on.
agenda items?
and it's 3 and 4,
Okay, so
and
now-
I agree with everything that was just said.
Okay.
I'm not a good speaker, so I'm not gonna go into a whole long letter, but I did write in and I oppose these projects because I think Waimea is just you know, there's so many commercial buildings already empty that people they're not even opening businesses in them. So why do we need more? And we already have congestion problems. And I thought the push was supposed to be we want people having egg land. And we want people to grow food and have animals. And what are we just going to turn it into parking lots and buildings like the mainland? I don't think that's what the Hawaiians want. And I don't think the Kama'ainas want it. And I don't think it's good for Waimea. I don't think it's good for the people. So that's my take on it.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to come back to Zoom to Pua Case. Is she able to speak with us now? Mr. Roy?
Yeah, I think she was on. So Pua, can you turn your camera on?
Aloha. It says unable to start video.
Oh, hold on a second. Let's see. Okay, go ahead and try it again. There we go. All set, Chair, for Pua.
Aloha mai kako kalamai for those technical difficulties. My name is Pua Case, and I'm addressing item 3 and 4, and I'm also against the amendment. So my name is Pua. I'm from Pu'ukapu, Waimea. I'm born and raised here as the daughter of a Parker Ranch employee in charge of water for the ranch and in many ways for Waimea. And I'm speaking as one of not just a resident, but a Kupa Okeya Aina, generations deep in this community, bringing my heart forward to speak my truth today because of the connection and the love that I have for not just Waimea, but for the legacy and the lifestyle that we have maintained throughout all of the changes that we have seen in Waimea. My first house that I lived in after I was born is fronting that property, and the house that I live in now is right across the street of the property. So you can say that I know this area intimately for my whole life. I'm speaking today not about all of the facts that have been presented, because that has already been eloquently stated by the other testifiers who are opposing. But instead, I'm speaking to the hearts of all of you as commissioners, because if you vote for approving this amendment and this development, you're actually responsible for impacting our community in ways that are not beneficial for this environment, for this landscape, for our people. And it has devastating consequences for the way of life that we are trying so hard to maintain as the changes we all can see to Waimea have occurred. The last time, the vote was 5-1 against the project. And we understand this process. And it's actually frustrating to be here today because we know that the developer may make some modifications or not in order to try to get the vote changed. And I'm asking specifically today if there is a commissioner that is representing the voice of Waimea, that you heed the testimonies and the voices of this community, because this change will bring about impacts, not just for this generation, but the generations after. And it's going to totally alter the way that we move, even on the road, the way that we move when we see a development that is not necessary, that is not pono for this community. So, and when I look at the affordable housing project that is attached to it, that is something that has been ongoing as well, a development and then attach what seems to be affordable housing that almost never is affordable for our people. And I think about the next time that we'll probably have to come in front of you and we're talking about sufficient water for affordable housing. But again, I'm going to ask that you look into what affordable housing means when it's attached to a development in a manner that hopefully will have you say yes to it. So today I'm here with my heart. I'm here for the Aina. I'm here for Waimea. I'm here for the people of Waimea who trust that my voice will be heard and represents them as well. I've been a teacher in Waimea for over 20 years at Waimea Middle School. I've been a protector for Mauna Kea. So testifying in front of you is familiar for me. I spend my life standing up for the places and the way of life that we love here in Waimea, that visitors love when they go through our community and they see that we are still farming, we are still ranching, we are still the paradise that they come to see. And our Hawaiian people, our Kanaka Maoli, our local people,
30 seconds.
moved here. I'm here simply to state and to ask, to request humbly that you not approve this project because it is detrimental for our people and for Waimea. Mahalo nui for hearing my testimony.
Thank you for your testimony. Do you have any questions, commissioners? Thank you very much. All right, so the testifiers on Zoom, you can now switch to YouTube if you want to see further. So go ahead and disengage from the Zoom call. So now we have no other people that want to speak now. Okay, so we're going to go to introduce agenda item number 1. And that is applicant Margaret Elive. Is she here today? Oh, good, okay. So the staff presentation is a PowerPoint by Ms. Jackson. And this is an application for a special permit to establish a 1-bedroom bed and breakfast establishment within an existing dwelling on a 26,761 square foot parcel of land in the State Land Use Rural District. The subject property is located at 78-6935 Mamalahoa Highway, approximately 580 feet south of its intersection with Kalalei Street, Keaho 2, Mauka, North Kona, Hawaii, TMK 37-8-004041. Thank you, Ms. Jackson.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. So your first item for the day is a special permit application. The subject property is located in the North Kona district and is shown on the slide with a red dot. It's located just Mauka of Mamalahoa Highway. Actually, let me go back and, sorry. For orientation, you have the highway here running in a north-south direction, and then you can see the community of Keaho, more Makai of the subject property. The applicant is requesting a 1-bedroom bed and breakfast establishment within an existing 3-bedroom dwelling on a 26,761 square foot parcel in the State Land Use Rural District. The remaining 2 bedrooms will be reserved for use by the applicant, who will be the on-site bed and breakfast operator. And the bed and breakfast will provide overnight accommodation and breakfast for a maximum of 2 guests. 1 parking stall will be provided. And the applicant's goal is to supplement their income and to provide hospitable accommodations, education, and understanding for tourists in Hawaii. And that's a duplicate. So here you have the subject property outlined in red. Again, it's located just Mauka of Mamalahoa Highway, which runs through the middle of the slide. The property and surrounding properties nearby are currently zoned residential and agricultural half-acre. And properties to the east and west are zoned agricultural 1 acre and 5 acres to the east. The state land use district for the property and surrounding properties is rural, which is shown in the light yellow color. And then the agricultural district is located around the rural district shown in green. The general plan designation is also rural, which is shown in the mustard color. And this is the applicant's site plan. You can see, again, Mamalahoa Highway on the right image is on the left side of the right image. And then there's a driveway leading up to the existing house. It's one house, but there is a breezeway connecting the front part of the house to the back part of the house. And the applicant would use the 2 bedrooms in the front part of the house and use the bedroom in the back part of the house for the B&B use. So that's shown a little more clearly on the left image. The front portion of the house is shown on the bottom, and then the image on the top is the B&B use with the 1 bedroom, dining area, and living area. This is an aerial photo of the property. You can see the house with the green roof and the concrete driveway leading up to it from Omalahoa Highway. There are residential and agricultural uses located in close proximity to the subject property. And these are images of the highway and driveway from the highway, and then the driveway leading up to the house. So the image on the bottom left is Mamalahoa Highway looking south, and you see the concrete driveway on the left side. And then the image on the right is the opposite of that. You have the driveway on the right side of the slide. And the top image is the front portion of the existing dwelling. The planning director is recommending approval of the special permit with conditions. And that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions at this time? Commissioner Norborkawa.
Mahalo, Chair DeFranco. Ms. Jackson, last time I had asked the question about the building division complaint. Have you had any communications with the building division in terms of what's happening with that?
My understanding is that the applicant wasn't aware of the complaint, but has since contacted the building division and is waiting to hear a call back from them for more information about the details of the complaint and how to resolve it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Jackson. So we're going to have the applicant come forward. Just raise your right hand and swear to tell the truth today in front of the Leeward Planning Commission.
Yes, I do.
Yes, I do. Okay. All right, just speak into the mic. You state your name and the town you reside in.
Margaret Iliev, Hulualoa.
Thank you. And do you have any more information you want to provide us or comments?
Just thank you so much for taking your time to look over this and for the possible opportunity to provide an experience for guests and for me to be able to spend more time with my son and provide a financial income.
Thank you. And you've received the background information and the recommendations from the planning?
Yes.
And do you agree with the recommendations?
Absolutely.
Okay, and wonderful. Okay, so commissioners, do you have any questions for the applicant? Yes, Commissioner Norbori Kawa.
Mahalo, Chair DeFranco. Ms. Iliev, the complaint about the retaining wall, could you tell me where, well, I mean, I know you said, Ms. Jackson said that you have not gotten a response back from building, but you have lived on the property, you've worked on the property. What are they talking about?
So I believe they're talking about the wall that's the closest to Mamalahoa Highway.
Okay. Okay, so it is quite a distance from the actual structure where the B&B would be.
Yes.
Okay. Where is it in relation to the driveway that accesses that area?
It is to the easement. It is on the facing the property. It is on the right of it. So, I don't know.
Ms. Jackson, can we go back to the visual that shows where everything is?
Yes, just give us a moment.
Okay. Either the aerial or the site plan, either one would be okay.
Went too far. Just give me 1 minute.
It's that wall right there. Mahalo. No further questions.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?
Yes,
Yes.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Au.
Who filed the complaint? Was it the county?
I have no idea. I heard first about it through turning in my application and then hearing back that there was a complaint on the stone wall.
Okay, Ms. Jackson, is there a way we can find out if it's from a landowner or was it the agency itself?
I don't have that information currently, but I can find out the information from Public Works.
Okay, thank you. And no more questions.
Thank you. Okay, there's no public testimony then either, so. Is that right? Yes, okay, so, and nothing on Zoom. All right. So thank you. We're gonna go ahead and do a motion for action then.
Madam Chair, I'm prepared to make a
Commissioner.
motion.
Oh, yes.
I move that the application for special permit docket PL SPP 2023-00051 be approved based on the planning director's recommendation, which shall be adopted.
Second.
And seconded by Commissioner Paishan Duart. Commissioner Au, you want to tell us why?
Sure. I do have concerns about that complaint because if the complaint is coming from the agency, it must be a safety reason. But I'm glad that you have addressed it and that the applicant has addressed it and will do their best to remedy it. So that's why I made that's why I made the motion, but that is my concern.
Thank you. Commissioner Paishan Duart, do you have a comment?
No additional comment. I'm in agreement with what Commissioner O had stated.
Okay. Do we have any discussion? Yes, Commissioner Lloyd or Kawa.
So I'm wondering whether we can put a condition on this that relates to that complaint, so that if it's that the bed and breakfast in terms of occupancy and those sorts of things will not go forward or will not be allowed until that complaint is resolved. Is that a possibility?
I think it is a possibility, but I'm just wondering if we can get a comment from the planning department, because with the recommendation, it was seen as it didn't seem to conflict with the application. So I somehow the planning department has okayed it. Ms. Jackson, you want to comment, or does Mr. Kearns want to comment on this? I mean, Director Kearns.
My comment would be that we didn't add that as a condition because the applicant has to comply with the building code regardless. So she is working to identify what the violation is and resolve that. And that's that would be her responsibility to do regardless of whether this special permit is approved or denied. She still has to comply with building code.
Okay, so my concern is that if it is a safety issue and we allow it to go forward and people are actually using that area and something happens, then what is the county's liability for that? You know, will we be liable if we allow something to go forward when we know that there is a problem?
Yeah, the liability question is a question I cannot answer. I would defer that to Corporation Counsel.
Thank you.
So can we get a comment?
Good morning, Jean Campbell, Deputy Corporation Counsel. I actually don't represent the commission, but on behalf of the planning department, it would be my opinion that I don't expect there would be liability for the county. I think that's much too far of a stretch. And as Ms. Jackson mentioned, the approval already includes a condition that she comply with all laws. And I think that would be broad enough to cover compliance with the building code, including getting the wall into compliance.
Mahalo, Ms. Campbell.
Does that answer your concern?
Aye.
Good, okay. Commissioner Rodriguez, you have any comments?
No comments, I would like to approve.
Okay, good, thank you. Okay, so no other comments, and we were going to call for a vote, please.
Thank you, Chair. The motion is to approve the special permit as recommended by the planning director. Commissioner Au,
Aye.
Vice Chair Bhaishan-Tort.
Aye.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Noborikawa,
Aye.
Commissioner Rodriguez,
Yes.
and Chair DeFranco.
Aye,
Okay, the motion carries 5-0.
thank you for coming, and you'll be notified at the commission in writing.
Thank you so
And
much.
I'm going to ask for a short break right now, just a 15-minute quick break before we go to agenda item number 2.
That is an interesting question.
Yes.
If somebody wanted to challenge this one, my only guess would be there's a procedural challenge. It is, but I don't know that, I'm not sure if you can get. Yeah, well, her advice is procedural and legal authority, it's not so much about what's in the application.
seeking a change of zone district. At the last meeting, the Planning Commission voted to defer this application to provide the Planning Department and council members who initiated Bill 134 an opportunity to collaborate and provide specific language for an amendment to this bill. Council members, Councilmember Inaba and Councilmember Evans, would you like to provide an update to the commission, please, if you'd come forward? Aloha. Can I just swear you in real quickly to tell the truth today before the Leeward Planning Commission?
Yes,
Do. Okay, Cindy, you know how to turn your mic on. I know you do.
and pull it forward.
Okay.
Definitely.
All right, so please share with us.
Yes, good morning, Chair DeFranco, Vice Chair Paishan Duwart, and members of the Leeward Planning Commission. Mahalo again for the opportunity you folks gave us to have a little bit more dialogue with the Planning Department. As we know, the Director is asking for an unfavorable recommendation on this bill as it is currently presented to you folks. I did submit testimony last night with some proposed changes to the language, so we have something to read in front of us. And recognizing that it's really difficult to identify the different types of buildings that folks could be building on their property, depending on the permitted uses. We tried a different approach in our conversations, and we've kind of landed here. And the language states that the planning director shall prepare a report identifying properties within 1/4 mile of the subject property that have undergone a change of zone, any ordinances relevant to the change of zone, and the status of those change of zone ordinances to include expiration dates. Finally, the report shall also identify properties within the same radius that can be subdivided under the current zoning and specify the potential number of parcels that can be created for each property. So we're not necessarily looking anymore at what buildings exist or what buildings could be, because that's a very difficult kind of task to accomplish that requires interdepartment collaboration with DPW. Hopefully one day we can get there, but right now it's a little difficult. So this is our proposal. I did share it with the planning department. And I just want to circle back to this idea of the radius, right? Right now it's a 1/4 mile. I think the approach will be targeted. So it could be less than a 1/4 mile. It could be more. And we don't have that specific language here now, but I know Director Kern had some concerns regarding that specific 1/4 mile, and we are totally ready to have that discussion with you folks for ideas and would like to have further discussion with the council when we get it back. But essentially asking for your support of these amendments to the language. And would also like to give Director, after Councilmember Evans, we can give Director Kern an opportunity to kind of weigh in on this new proposed language that we came up with. Councilmember Evans.
Thank you. I just want to share with you, I had a recent conversation with the Board of Water Supply, and I said, if someone came in and asked for a rezone and you're looking at that and responding to that, don't you want to look around and see what else is going on in the neighborhood? Because again, it's about the availability of water, the aquifer, what our water plan is for the area. And I think that's just an example of how your county council, just like the Board of Water Supply, really likes to know in the immediate area what potentially the impacts are on the infrastructure. Maybe not immediately this year, but we can start seeing the trend in the forecast as we may have to develop water, we may have to develop roads. I do think it's something that also it comes into alignment more with, I think, our community action plans, where our community was really talking about the vision of their community. And I think it just gives your council information that I think is important so that when we have the applicant in front of us, you know, we can ask questions about their research and what they've looked at. So I'm asking for your favorable support in trying to find the right distance, you know, today. So thank you so much for your consideration.
Thank you. I'm just going to call on Director Kern, please, to join our conversation. He's on Zoom with us today.
Good morning. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Sorry for not being there in person.
No, I can't hear you.
How about now?
That's better.
All right. Let me try that. Is that working?
Yeah, that's working.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person today. So thanks for including us in the ongoing conversation. So I think the dialogue is it's getting clearer. I still have a few concerns around it. As Councilmember Inaba had mentioned, the radius side of things, I think definitely needs to be adjusted. Currently, I think a quarter mile is too much. So that would need to come down. When we look at the request for information on existing zoning ordinances in the surrounding area, that's a little bit easier, I think, as far as accuracy of information. So I guess I'm going to drill down on three parts. One is the radius, two is accuracy of information, and three is the staff time that we don't really have. So as it relates to the accuracy, if we're doing a report on existing change of zoning ordinances, there's probably better information there because they were contemplated probably within the last 10 or 15 years. They're either, or less, they're either current or they're not current. If they're current, they had looked at the amount of water that was going to be needed and got a water commitment from the Department of Water Supply. So if there is the zoning that would allow for, say, 50 units on a change of zone, the likelihood of those 50 units actually being able to be built is pretty decent. Whether or not they get built is another story. The areas around it that is existing zoning is much harder because it might have the entitlements to allow for the 50 units, but it may not have water or wastewater to allow for that. So I think when we look at that count, it's not providing as accurate of information as one would hope. So that's kind of what I'm trying to figure out is how do we actually provide truthful information versus potential. And then secondly, staff time, we are short on staff. You folks see it. You folks see the reports coming out to you folks, not as early as we would like. At any given time within that division, we could be 20% or 60% understaffed. Every application that comes into this division has a time clock on it, and we have to get it to the Planning Commission, usually within, usually it's either 90 days or 120 days, depending. And that poses challenges. And so I think if we're going to end up mandating additional staff work, we need to account for that as far as staff time goes. So those are our primary concerns. We've enjoyed the dialogue of trying to move this forward to get to something that is actionable, and happy to answer any questions.
So it sounds like those three concerns were not quite there with the language. Is that what I'm hearing, Director Kearns? Is we're still working this out?
Yeah, I mean, the dialogue around radius, I would say that council member and the department both agree that that is being worked on. What that is, I don't know yet. And so whether it's, if it's 1,000 feet, I'd probably still be less inclined to support it. If it were brought down to a closer radius, maybe something where it was consistent with the notices surrounding property owners.
That's fine.
It's depending, could be 300, could be 500. That at least starts linking up with another element. And so the other issues as far as the accuracy on the zoning, it's been talked about. We're not landing anywhere on that yet. And the staff issues have been brought up and they exist.
Thank you. Commissioners, I'd like to ask you to ask your questions now to the presenters, our council people. Yes, Commissioner Paisan Duarte.
Thank you, Chair.
So council members, thank you for sharing your manao this morning. Can you please explain how you came up with the proposed 1/4 mile radius at this point?
Sure, we felt that that was a, reasonable distance, when we first drafted this. So a lot of thought has not gone into that because we were hoping to hear from you folks too. We know that the 1/4 mile is, a 1/4 mile across the board isn't gonna work for the planning department, and it won't be necessarily helpful for you folks and for us when we get the report. So that it's a placeholder, but it was initially put in because we felt it gave us, a sensible distance from the subject property.
Okay, thank you for the question. When I think about this, I think of a 1/4 mile when I'm thinking of agricultural zone lands, and what happens on ag lands. In residential zoned areas or urban areas, I could see a much smaller, radius, much smaller, because of density reasons. So it may be that you basically say in an urban zone, it's 300 or 500 feet. If you're in a ag zoned area, I think 1/4 mile might work, But I do see the differences, and that might be why when we're thinking of staff grabbing stuff, truly it would be different, urban versus ag. So that might help, if we did it according to land
One
use.
more-
Thank you.
One more question, please.
Thank you for those responses. This next question, may I direct it to Director Kern, please? Thank you, Director. Mahalo. Have you had the opportunity to work with staff to come up with with a proposal for proposed radius? And if not, when might we expect, continued dialogue around that, just so that the council members can engage with your recommendation?
So I'm trying to figure out exactly how to do this. I feel like I'm being forced into something. We gave our recommendation on where we're at with something. The dialogue is continuing to go. I've thrown out potential points that we could talk about, but I feel like I'm being forced to come up with something when our recommendation holds. And if we are going to look at a radius, then I would look at potentially closer to what our surrounding property owners would be. And then I would go back to what are we looking at the radius for? What's the intention of that? What impacts are we trying to look at? What are those impacts going to lead to that would not necessarily be within a change of zone or state land use boundary amendment? Do those changes lead towards functional plans within the community that are actually working towards solving for a cumulative impact? And my time has been quite short. I went in for emergency surgery on last Friday, so I have not been in any type of capacity this week to think about this in more detail. And with all of these, the time clock is ticking, same time clock issue we deal with when an application comes through. This is our last shot to get it through. This is our last shot at Planning Commission because it has to make its way back to the county council within specified time period, leading to additional staff challenge. So I would also engage with our staff if there's any other ideas. We've been talking about it. We haven't landed on anything.
Thank you for your comments, Director Kern, and best wishes for your speedy recovery as well.
Thank you.
Commissioner Norberg-Kawa.
Mahalo. I want to thank the council members for making changes, being open to what comments we gave before. I do agree with Director Kern, though, that there are still some issues that need to be worked on. And I also agree with Council Planning Commissioner Baishandor that we do need to have staff input. I'm not sure if it's something that we can accomplish before it has to go back to the council. But I think we really do need to have the people that are actually going to be on the ground doing the work have some input as to what they feel would be workable at this time. And I think that still leaves it open for us to be able to make changes at a later date.
You have to
So
ask a
thank-
question.
So I guess the question would be, for, Director Kern, it would be the same one that, Commissioner Paishon Duarte. Is how much time would you have available to talk with staff before this has to go back to, before this goes in front of the council?
So
So my understanding, yeah, and Maya, you can jump in, and timing wise, this will be the last time it's at planning commission, and then it'll be transmitted to council, and that'll be about 4 weeks or so.
Yeah, so the, oh, I'm sorry, Director Kern.
No, you go ahead.
So the deadline to send this back to the county council is July 31st. So this would be the last meeting that the Leeward Planning Commission would have to make a decision. And if a decision's not made, it would go up as an automatic unfavorable recommendation.
Thank
And
you.
so timing between now and then with transmittals about 4 weeks. We're just not in any position where we're dealing with one thing at one time. We're reviewing multiple different bills related to similar kind of dialogue, trying to get meetings with those, general plans, code updates, all the rest of the business. The time is just really, there's not a lot of it.
thank you, Director Kern. Commissioner O.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Director Kern, question for you. You mentioned staff, issues with staff. Is it a staff shortage, or is it just time, or is it just you need more people, more planning? What are your positions called, Maya? Planning managers, planning,
Planners.
is it a, yeah, so, and I have a possible follow-up question, for council members.
So thanks for the question. Related to staffing, it's multiple factors. We have a certain amount of staff for the division, and if we were completely full, 100% staffed, the conversation would be a little bit easier. That's accounting nobody going on vacation. We've been operating at about 20% understaffed as a department for the last 3.5 years, still trying to hit our marks. Then within the division, it can fluctuate if we lose somebody or they change divisions, etc. We can be down in as low as 40 or 50% in that division. Then I deal with other issues such as return rights. So certain folks might get hired by a different department for a position. They get return rights back to that position. Currently within that division, I have 2 positions held up by return rights, compounding the challenges trying to hire somebody to refill that position because it becomes temporary in nature. So all of that, plus provide accurate information on time and get it to the commission early enough for everybody to review it.
So follow-up question for council members. So if in whatever form Bill 134 goes to you guys, are you willing to have another conversation on how to properly staff the planning department? Whether it's more people, more money, maybe more money in the budget, but are you willing to have that conversation?
Yes, I think regarding staffing, obviously there's a lot of vacancies right now, so it's not necessarily like there isn't positions, it's just there's vacancies. So however we can support as the council to make sure, but we have vacancies across the county as a whole, right? So it's a difficult conversation, and I guess I just kind of bring us back to the intention of this report. And we're willing to, when it gets back to committee, hold it there for a while. Even if it's something that you folks can still chime in on as individuals to us to provide us with, input on how it would work best, this bill. But I think the version that we have before us in that proposed change is something doable. Is it more work for the department? Yes, but it surely isn't what it was before. And I feel it does give both the planning commissions and the council valuable information and helps point us in directions that we can research a little bit more when we're all making these decisions in our roles as commissioners and as council members.
Do we have
May
any-
I, may I
Yes,
comment?
Commissioner.
Chair,
Commissioner-
may I comment to his
excuse me.
question?
Yes,
Thank you.
excuse me.
You know, I've been in this position since my first term. And I have to say, there's been very few rezoning bills that have come in front of me for action. So when we talk about staffing, we could go down this rabbit hole, but it doesn't come up that often. So I don't see a major impact on the staff. The other thing is when they're preparing their reports for you, which they do beautiful reports. I mean, I saw what they do. When they do their reporting and they're already looking at maps and things to show you what's going on, I don't think we're asking for a heavy lift at all. And so I would ask you to consider really what we're talking about when he says short in staffing. I don't see this being a big hour consumption by his staff. Like I said, I've been on board for a while and I've seen very few rezoning in front of me to vote on. So I would, that sounds like a good argument, but I would have to debate you someday if you wish. I will debate you on the true impact to the workload by what we're asking for. And regarding staffing, we're going to do anything and everything to help our human resource department to get out there and get people on board filling these vacancies that are across the county. We are on board, whatever it takes to make that happen. And so I just want you to know, we take it very seriously, what's going on with the vacancies. Thank you. I
Thank
yield.
you. Commissioner Rodriguez.
Thank you. I just want to, thank the both council members for, taking up this bill. I think it's important, it's a lot of work right
This is
now
a question. You have a question for them.
no,
Okay.
comment.
No, no comment,
Okay.
question. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Chair,
Yes,
I have the additional question if
Yes.
possible.
you have a question?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you. My question, I'd like to direct it either to Director Kern or to Ms. Jackson. So can you please remind us, what was the recommendation for item number 4? So we're kind of going back and forth. Director, when I asked my question, is 1/4 mile or what's your proposal? He reminded us that he put forward to the commission his recommendations. I can't just, can you help us remember what those recommendations are?
Are you asking?
Maya, can you take this one?
I don't understand the question. Are you asking what the radius is?
Yeah,
for
so the
surrounding
amendment that we're discussing right now is number 4.
property? Okay.
The planning director shall prepare a report identifying properties within 1/4 mile of the subject property, et cetera. So when I asked the question to Director Kern, because we're having this conversation of what is an appropriate number? Director Kern reminded us that he already put forth his recommendation, so I can't recall and I can't find information there. So can you please let us know what that was?
The surrounding property owner distance for item 4 is 1,000 feet because it's in the state land use agricultural district. That's the largest distance required. We also require 300 or 500 feet if they're in another district. The director's recommendation on Bill 134 was to forward an unfavorable recommendation. And there was no suggestion for a different distance specified.
Thank you. All right, with no further questions, is this,
It's related to her question.
did she ask you a question? I'm sorry. No, so thank you. We're not.
Chair, I think,
Mm.
okay.
Okay, so if there's not a specific question, then we're not having this dialogue, I guess is the point. Okay. Thank you. We're gonna take public testimony now. We have one person. Nancy Carr Smith, please come forward. Thank you for coming. Nancy used to sit on this commission for those of the new commissioners. She was chair for a while. Nice to see you.
Good
So,
morning. Thank you.
Raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth today in front of the Leeward Planning Commission.
do.
Please state your name and the town you live in.
Nancy Carr Smith, I'm from Waimea. And I'm here to testify against this bill with all due respect to the county council members. When I read this bill, I felt like the initiators who it says is property owners and other persons. I don't know what that means. But the initiators may not fully understand the variables and the potential consequences of this request. Asking the already low-staffed planning department to do this additional work feels irresponsible to me. To assume that the planning department can assess surrounding properties based on zoning or land use designation is unreasonable due to the fact that it can change quickly. Also, just because a property is zoned to accept, for example, 20 homes, doesn't mean that that will happen. It may be 5, it may be 2. So why assess and give weight to something that may or may not happen? Guessing is what that looks like to me, and I don't think that's responsible or reasonable. This is speculation, in my opinion, and would also potentially trigger a disclaimer since the department wouldn't be able to prove the information is absolute. It doesn't make sense to me, and it seems like it puts the county at risk legally. It also seems like the director is trying to cooperate and offer a compromise, but I don't think it's warranted. I encourage you to consider denial. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any questions, Commissioner, for the speaker? Thank you. Is anybody on Zoom to testify for this? Mr. Roy?
There are no testifiers for this agenda item.
Okay, so public testimony on this item is closed then. And we need a motion for action, please, from one of the commissioners. So if a motion for action.
Madam Chair, I'm prepared to make a motion.
Yes.
I move that a favorable recommendation be forwarded to the county council on bill number 134, docket number PLCCI 2024-00007.
Okay, so this is and we need a second then?
I recommend a favorable recommendation for this bill.
No, you just second what he said.
Yes.
Second.
So,
Madam Chair, can we're in discussion now?
yes.
Okay, so I understand the intentions of the initiators. So thank you, council members, for coming. But I just want to share with my fellow commissioners that, this is going to be an ongoing conversation. They need to go to committee and at least two full council hearings. And I believe that they're going to come up with a consensus. And I know for our planning director, it's challenging. The questions that were asked to the initiators and to the director. But again, I believe the intentions is to make this more transparent. I really like some of the language in planning director's recommendations of agency and community engagement. That can open up a can of worms. But I think, the majority of the people that come to our commission and either oppose or support projects are the community members, right? And these reports are going to be more transparent, more possibilities of associations coming up and giving their manao or HOAs. It does make more work for staff, and I feel sorry for our staff as overworked that they are now, but, we are in government and we all rely on our government to give us as much information as possible. So, and again, I understand the intentions of the initiators, and I believe that our planning director and the initiators can come to a consensus.
Thank you. Commissioner Rodriguez?
Yes, I'd like to thank both council members for introducing this bill. And I think, they have their hearts in the right places. They're just trying to, this is a growing community, and there has to be changes to make it easier in the long run. It's more work now, but in the long run, it's gonna help, make things easier, because we're gonna have more clarity, and we wanna keep it a good community here, and I think their hearts is in the right place. So thank you.
Commissioner Norikawa, do you have a comment here? No. Commissioner Paishon Duarte, please.
Yes, thank you to the initiators of this bill. I am also in agreement with Commissioner O's comments, as well as Commissioner Rodriguez's comments. I think the more that we can, and our staff do a tremendous job in supplying and preparing for, for these meetings at a monthly level, which are very detailed. And I agree, I think more and more we're going to find with the issues that are coming up that community is going to want to get even more engaged. And I think my understanding of the intent of this bill is to take a more proactive measure. And so I really appreciate what Director Kern put forth in number 4, his recommendation for agency and community engagement. And I would like to encourage the initiators to continue to work with Director and come up with, Amendment 4, come up with something that is reasonable. And yeah.
My comment is I'm not exactly comfortable with making it favorable myself, because I think we can put something in there in the recommendation that we would be comfortable with. Just like Director Kern has recommended an unfavorable recommendation for those reasons. We might at this juncture look at how we could write a favorable recommendation with conditions. Because these are concerns, no matter whether we believe everybody's heart is in the right place. I think it's us to get it in writing what we would like to see it look like. So my discussion time here with you, because now it's for us to discuss together. Is there anybody on the council that would like to work on adding something to this? Okay.
Are you asking for the council or the commission?
The commission, the commission to maybe come up with something, because I hear when even in your recommendations, you're saying, but you appreciate that. And even the council people appreciate the difficulty of saying a quarter mile, that we can include this in the language of giving them a favorable condition, giving them a favorable recommendation with the condition. So I guess I'm asking Commissioner Au, who made the original motion, if he would like to amend his original motion to be able to add something, or whether you just want to keep it that way.
I think I want to keep my motion as is, and I would like the department, the planning director, and council members to continue the conversation. And like I said, this our process of government is there's going to be more conversations. There's at least 3 more hearings at the committee.
But not in front of us.
Yes, not in front of us, but for me, I don't have any recommendations at this time, but Chair DeFranco, do you have any recommendations on what would you like to add for conditions?
Yeah, I would add the condition that, that the intent of the bill, we appreciate. We appreciate the transparency trying to be created by the bill. But we also would appreciate that a quarter mile is too much, that language has to change. And that the idea of making sure that there's sufficient staff to implement an ordinance. You put in an ordinance, then you have to be able to implement it. So I just want to make sure that the staff actually has, that the planning department actually has the finances to hire the staff to do this. Because if you leave it as it is now, written as a quarter of a mile, I think that is unreasonable. Commissioner Paishon DeWard?
Yes, thank you, Chair, for your perspectives as well. Respectfully, I think we've heard, and granted, we have not vetted whether it's accurate or not. We've heard that there are current vacancies, so I'm not sure if it's a budgetary situation, or if it's because we have not have had enough applicants. My only comment.
Thank you. Commissioner O?
So from what I'm hearing about the comments you made, Chair DeFranco, is about radius and staff. And, I believe I'm still going to hold my motion as is because from the conversations that we've had with council members and the planning director is already working with them on that issue, and the initiators are willing to make that change. So I don't feel it's necessary to add it in as a condition. But let's hear more conversations. And council member Inaba might want to say something.
Yeah, excuse me. So is there any Commissioner Norberikawa?
Mahalo. So, I don't know if this is the appropriate place to say it, because,
This
it's
is our
my second.
discussion.
Okay.
Okay.
So in terms of this quarter mile radius,
Yes.
what I'm kind of hearing, and what if I was a staff person, would be comfortable with would be the notification distance, 300 or 500 for the other, the more urban areas, and then 1,000 for the ag areas, would be something that I, as a staff person, would be comfortable with doing.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I don't know how, what the staffing is right now and how many other things are going on. But if I was to be doing it, that's what I would look at in terms of a distance.
Mhm. And from what I understood from Ms. Jackson saying, isn't that already what you do? Isn't,
The code requires the applicant to send a letter to surrounding property owners notifying them of the application and the hearing. So it's not something that the department does, it's something that the applicant does.
okay.
The real property tax website has a tool that creates a buffer. And you can list a distance and it'll pull up all the properties within that distance. And that's how applicants are able to create that list of property owners to send it to. So for the planning staff, what we would have to do is generate this list of anywhere from, 5 to hundreds of TMKs, and then research each of those for the information that is being requested in the bill.
Yeah, so my suggestion is that instead of using quarter mile, we use a number that's consistent with the notification distance. So, so that would, in this this amendment that we're looking at would say within the same distance as the notification distance, or something along those lines. That would reduce the amount of area, the number of properties, the number of TMKs that staff is having to look at from everything within 1/4 mile down to either 300, 500, or 1,000 feet.
Thank you. Yes, Council Member
Thank you.
Inaba.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. I think what we're talking about with the radius here is in Planning Director Kern's recommendations, number one, a targeted analysis. So whether we go with targeted analysis or commit to the specific notifications as stated by Commissioner Noborikawa, one of those, but the targeted analysis could definitely give some more leeway to the department, I feel, to not provide reports that are just cumbersome and don't provide us information. It gives that leeway as stated in the director's recommendation number one. And just quickly, I know we are all, myself included, not in support of Bill 134 as it's currently written. So I'm wondering if the commission's recommendation is based more so on the language that was provided to you folks today, because I think the department can be on board with that, but they can't be on board with Bill 134 as currently written. And I just want to make sure that when it comes back to us, we can say we had the discussion based on that language I provided you folks, and we can start cue off our conversation at council with that. I don't want to mislead my counterparts that it comes back and the commission said they support Bill 134 and kind of as written. So I just want to share that so that we can give accurate representation to the council when we get back.
Yes, Commissioner Rodriguez.
I think, from hearing what my concern is that, they're concerned about some of the language, the quarter mile, but like, you mentioned that it's going to be different from agriculture to residential. So you just have to, just fill in the fine print there and, it's almost there. And thank you.
Do we have any more discussion then? Okay, then we have to move for a vote then. We have a roll call vote, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. The motion is to forward a favorable recommendation to the County Council on the County Council initiated Bill 134. Commissioner Au,
Aye.
Commissioner Noborikawa,
Ole.
Vice Chair Paishan Duart,
Aye.
Commissioner Rodriguez,
Yes.
and Chair DeFranco.
Nay.
The motion does not carry 3-2 with 2 commissioners absent.
Since this is our last opportunity to say something about this, right, before it goes, or we're done, unless there's another motion made, then.
Council, are we able to put forth another motion even though we had a roll call vote?
You can't have another motion. Again.
Okay, let's see. Okay. I'd like to, I'm trying to find. Okay, I move that a favorable recommendation be forwarded to the County Council on Bill number 134, docket number PL-CCI-2024-000007 with the condition, with an amendment to item number 4 or recommendation number 4 that replaces the planning director shall prepare a report identifying properties within up to 1,000
Was it square mile? What is that wording that you used? 1,000 square feet of the subject property that have undergone a change of zone. Any ordinances relevant to the change of zone and the
Ma-
status of those change of zone ordinances to include expiration dates.
Mahina,
Yes.
excuse me, Commissioner Paishon Duarte. I think that she had some interesting wording. Can she share the word with you? Okay.
So my wording was that the distance be consistent with the distances for the notification, the public notification.
Thank
Is
you.
that the proper term?
Yes. Thank you, Commissioner Nobukawa. I'd like to amend my initial motion to state, let's see. I move a favorable recommendation be forwarded to the County Council on Bill number 134, docket number PL-CCI-2024-000007, to item amendment number 4 that will strike within 1/4 mile to say consistent with the public notification requirements.
Is that good?
That sounds right. Thank you.
So we have a second for this motion?
Second.
Okay, it's first and second, and now we have a discussion. Is there any discussion on this?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. The reason why I bring this up is because there's a lot of merit in again, this bill, and a lot of good thinking has been brought forth from Director Kern and staff. And so I'd hate for this to be voted down if there is a compromise that can be made today.
Commissioner Nobukawa.
I agree with Commissioner Paishon Duarte.
Any more discussion? So now we have a new motion on the table, so we call for a vote now.
Thank you so much. The motion on the floor is a favorable recommendation to the County Council on County Council initiated Bill 134 with amendments. The specific amendment being to the director's suggestion, item number 4, to strike out the 1/4 mile radius to be consistent with the notification to surrounding property owners. Vice Chair Paishon Duarte,
Aye.
Commissioner Nobukawa,
Aye.
Commissioner Al,
Aye.
Commissioner Rodriguez,
Yes.
and Chair DeFranco.
Aye.
The motion carries 5-0 with 2 commissioners excused and absent. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, council people.
Thank you very much, commissioners, and we'll be happy to kind of unpack this discussion when it gets back to the committee and work further with the planning department to make sure that the final version of this is something that can be carried out and is useful to all of us.
Thank you. So we'll forward that recommendation to the county council in writing. So I'm going to move us into agenda items 3 and 4 because we're going to lose one of our council people in commissioners, excuse me. Yeah, shortly. So I'd like all of us to sit for at least this. So we're going to introduce agenda items 3 and 4. But we're going to introduce them together, but they will be called for separate motions of action. Okay, so item number 3 is applicant Kahupulehu Land LLC PL-SLU-2022-000008. Application for a state land use boundary amendment from agricultural to rural for 2.653 acres of land. The subject property is located at 64-983 Mamalahoa Highway, approximately 1 mile east of its intersection with Kauai Road, Pu'ukapu Homestead, South Kahala, Hawaii, TMK 36-4-024027. And agenda item number 4, applicant Kapulehu Land LLC, PL-REZ-2022-000039. Application for a change of zone from agricultural 5 zoning district to a neighborhood commercial, 10,000 square feet zoning district for 2.325 acres of land from agricultural 5 zoning district to a residential agricultural 0.5 acre zoning district for 3.024 acres of land. The subject property is located at 64-983 Mamalahoa Highway, approximately 1 mile east. Item 3 is on today's agenda because at the last meeting, there's been a lot of, I'm going to comment on it, and then I don't know if we'll have more comments, but why we're hearing this again. The Planning Commission failed to act on the state land use boundary amendment application. A motion was made to provide a favorable recommendation on the application to the county council, and the motion failed with a 3 ayes and 3 nays. 4 votes are needed in favor of an action for the motion to carry. At the time, the commission was advised that their inaction would result in an automatic unfavorable recommendation to the county council. But on closer review of the county code and commission's rules, there is no option for inaction. And the commission must make a recommendation on this application. Item number 4, the change of zone application, is on today's agenda as the 2 items were originally calendared together to be reviewed jointly. The commission voted 5-1 forward an unfavorable recommendation to the county council due to concerns over lack of community engagement, flooding, and traffic safety concerns. Before a motion for action is made, we will hear public testimony, but I needed to sort of clear that up because many people wondered why we were all hearing it again. Is that clear to the commissioners of why we're here today looking at this? Yes? Okay. All right, so we are going to, we have public testimony first. So I think we have public testimony first.
Sorry, and then after.
So
public-
we have public testimony and Zoom.
Okay. After public testimony, the applicant will be allowed to
Yes,
present?
yes.
Okay.
You're part of our public testimony.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry. So here in the in-person public testimony people, we have Roger Harris and Nancy Carr Smith. Is Roger here? Is Roger outside? Oh, that's Roger. Hi, Roger. Thank you, Mr. Harris. All right, so if you will, Nancy, I think I already swore you in, but Roger, will you please raise your right hand and swear to tell the truth in front of the Leeward Planning Commission today?
Okay,
I do, say.
I do.
Okay, thank you. So when it's your turn, we're going to start with you, Mr. Harris. And you will state your name, the town you live in, and what agenda items you're speaking on. You have 3 minutes for each agenda item. Please.
Okay.
Okay.
My name is Roger Harris. I live in Waimea. I've been there for 43 years, and I've known, I'm speaking on agenda items 3 and 4. I've known John Metzler almost the whole time I've lived here. He's a very high quality contractor, good reputation, and I just feel he should be given a fair hearing and an evaluation of his request. The property is on the general plan and they're trying to implement the general plan. But I also am good friends with John Kawano, and he has strong opinions, and the neighbors do. And I think, I guess in my capacity as a long-term resident of Hawaii, I'd like to see the things get worked out, honestly, so that there's some satisfaction of the issue. It is on the general plan. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Ms. Smith?
Thank you. Nancy Carr Smith again, speaking on items 3 and 4 in support. Speaking to number 3 regarding the state land use designation, based on my experience and my knowledge of the property, This request makes sense to me.
And you live in,
I'm sorry.
you live in Waimea, right?
I'm sorry, I do. I live in
Okay.
Waimea. I've been there for 24 years. This is not taking away ag land, as the testimony, some testimony suggests. We're talking about less than 2.5 acres. And what this designation does is allow coexistence with the 2 beautifully restored plantation homes and 3 additional smaller parcels. Locals in Waimea are starving for this type of property. And we learned this last year when Okuda farm lots came on the market. These were 1-acre lots, and they sold immediately, all to locals. That was 7 lots that sold. And people were, wishing there were more, but there weren't. Our families want small acreage that they can build a family home on and still have that ag feeling and lifestyle. Realistically, I think we need to admit that there is a lot of ag land in Waimea that is not being used. Farmers in Lalamilo are aging and tapping out because their kids do not want to farm. It's not a way of life for everyone, but ranching and farming is hard work, not always a profitable business, but it's more of a way of life and a lifestyle. And I believe these days that people just want a peaceful place that they can live and provide for their family. And I think 3 additional small lots in Waimea is a good thing, not a bad thing. It's 3 additional lots to local people is going to enhance my love for Waimea, not deplete it. The planning department has shown that the request is consistent with the CDP and the general plan, and despite blanket form testimony to the contrary. It's sad to me that the community is divided, and it feels like something personal. I don't know what it's about. I don't even know the Metzlers. But I think that 3 additional ag parcels for our community is a good thing. So speaking now to the rezone, again, I support the change of zone from ag 5 to residential ag ½ acre on the 3 acres. This is for the reasons that I just mentioned. Small ag residential properties is what our locals want. The planning department wouldn't have made a favorable recommendation if these folks were not compliant, if the property was not compliant. It's not about the people. It's not about the feelings. It's about what property rights enable people to be able to do. I did want to mention, I know that CC guys were talking about all the commercial property in Waimea. And there is a lot of commercially zoned property in Waimea. Most of it is owned by Parker Ranch, and they haven't done anything with it for many, many years. And there's a reason for that. It's not easy to develop property, and they haven't been able to find anyone that's interested in their commercially zoned property. To me, it'll be a much bigger deal when somebody comes forward and wants to develop these large commercial properties than this person coming forward and wanting to develop this small parcel. The commercial zoning along Mamalahua is typical of the area. There's commercial property all around it. It's not as though it's sprawling out and it's beyond any other commercial. So it is reasonable, in my opinion. Yeah, so I just encourage the commission members to remember the rules in which you're supposed to use to make decisions, and that it shouldn't be about the feelings or what you do or don't want next door. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any questions? Oh, Commissioner Rodriguez? This is a question.
Yes, to Mr. Harris, yeah, I didn't understand you. Are you for or against rezoning? Yeah.
I'm for the rezoning,
Okay.
but I also understand there's some negotiation that may improve the whole situation.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Other commissioners? No. Thank you for your testimony. And we have the applicant's response to the testifiers. Oh, is there anybody on Zoom? I'm sorry. Wait, sorry. Zoom,
Yeah, we
is-
have Joni and John Metzler, and then a Mark DeRoos. We have 3 testifiers but the 2 Metzlers, of course, are the applicant.
And
They're both here, so let me have them turn on their video. Joni and John, can you?
right, can we take Mark first as a testifier and then John, Mr. and Mrs. Metzler? Is that all right? So can we have all the testifiers then join us and we raise our right hands? I'm going to swear you all in. Hi, just raise your right hands and swear to tell the truth in front of the Leeward Planning Commission.
I swear.
You do. Okay, thank you. All right, so for the first testifier, will you state your name, where the town you live in, and what agenda items you're speaking to?
Would you like me to go first?
Yes, please.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. As a business owner in Waimea for the last 18 years.
Can you state your name, please? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. My name's Mark DeRoos. I currently live in Idaho. I own a business in Waimea for the last 18 years with 7 employees. I'm testifying to voice my support for items 3 and 4 on your agenda. I've known the owner of this property, the Metzlers, for many years, and I'm familiar with the projects that he has built over his 50 years of doing business on the island. Suffice it to say that he has high standards of quality and craftsmanship and likes to do things right. I'm comfortable with this subdivision. I'm comfortable with the zoning change. It's well planned and it's designed to fit the urgent needs of the community. In addition to my written testimony that I previously submitted, I'd like to add that this proposed development is a small project. It's not large. It's on the general plan, as Roger pointed out. In my opinion, this type of a small scale development should be considered through the lens of smart growth. Smart growth allows communities to carefully and selectively consider adjustments to zoning to accommodate needs of growth to the needs of the community. It is evident Waimea has been discovered as an idyllic small scale community in which to live. This comes with growth. This small scale development is ideally suited for a small scale adjustment to zoning. There is a need for more commercial space, contrary to previous testimony, and there is a need for low density residential. I support the rezoning, and I thank you for allowing me to testify. I also thank you for thank you, commissioners, for your service to the community.
Thank you for your testimony. Mr. Roy, who's next?
We can, John Metzler appears to be ready, and then Joni Metzler.
Okay. So is Mr. Metzler going to go first, or do you want to all do this together? Okay. Is that all right? I'll do it together.
Sorry, we'll have the applicant present with us.
Okay. So can Joni, Mrs. Metzler come back on then, please? Thank you. Okay, so you're going to proceed and they're going to be part of the response. Okay. And you did hear some of the questions that were being asked by the public, and I'm hoping that you take the time to respond to their questions. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Catherine Garson and Onana Thone for Kapolei Land LLC. We're from Carl Smith Ball. Members of Kapolei Land, John and Joni, are available via Zoom, and so they'll be part of our presentation.
I'm just going to swear you in real quick. You swear to tell the truth today in front of the Leeward Planning Commission?
Yes.
Thank you. Just state your name when you speak. So.
Yes, so Catherine Garson, we did have some slides that we wanted to show and just kind of run through,
Thank you.
if that's okay. Thank you for allowing us again to present. We appreciate it. I'll just start. One of the things that we really want to emphasize is
Will
that
you speak really into the mic? Thank you.
one of the things that we would very much like to emphasize is that the state land use district boundary amendment and the rezoning are compliant with the general plan. They're also compliant with the Kona Community Development Plan.
CDP.
Correct.
Thank you.
South Kohala. CDUP. Okay, you got it?
They're fixing it. Okay. So will you just?
Yep. We'll
As they're
keep
fixing
going.
it.
Yep.
We-
So again, we're going to remind you that this is a map here of the state land use district boundary. That entire area fronting Mamaloa Highway is already urban. It's already in the state land use urban district. That is the area that the applicant was requesting the commercial zoning for. The back portion is the area that we're talking about to designate as rural, which will act as a transition to the agricultural lands in the back. You can see on the top left that there's already some rural designated property in the area. Comments have been made about what kind of response we have had to the community. And again, this application itself is a response to comments by the community. We had come in 2021 with an application that asked for the back area to be urban and asked for RS10 zoning. At that time, it was the public and the commission that said rural would be the more appropriate designation. So the applicant withdrew that. And that's this application. It's a response to the community. It is a response to what the commission and the planning department had actually said back in 2021. Go ahead. So I want you to look at Planning Commission Rule 13-7. This is your standard for review for state land use district boundary amendments. Basically, consideration is given to the general plan, the goals, policies, standards, and courses of action in the general plan. And B is the extent to which the proposed reclassification conforms to the applicable standards. So those are the standards by which you're looking at whether or not to designate the back portion rural. Here's what the statute says about the rural district. It's small farms mixed with very low density residential lots, minimum lot size of not less than 1/2 acre. That is exactly what the applicant is proposing. It's compliant with the rural district, how the rural district is described. Hence, the positive recommendation from the planning director. It complies with the rural district statute about what it should contain. As far as the general plan, again, the LUPEG map shows the front part of the property in medium density urban, the back part in low density urban. So what is the LUPEG map? It's a representation of the goals and policies of the general plan. That's what it is. That's where you want your growth. It's planning. This is where you want this type of project to go. That's what this map is saying. And again, that is why the planning director
gave that positive recommendation. It is consistent with not only the LUPAG map, but also other goals and policies contained in the general plan and as in the recommendation. So those include diversity of housing choices, which was brought up in the testimony too. You want to allocate and designate certain land uses in certain areas, and that's exactly what this has done. You want to put this kind of project in a place where there are services, right? Access to water, access to utilities. Like you're not going to put a commercial project, you're not going to put this residential project out somewhere where there's no access to those utilities. Those are also policies in the general plan. Yeah, so again, low density urban, up to 6 units per acre. What Mr. Messler is proposing is residential ag 0.5, therefore it's compliant with this. Some of the testifiers were talking about, well, there's enough commercial, there's enough, there's enough of that designated land in Waimea already. But when you have a plan project like the Metzlers have that's consistent with the general plan, that you really shouldn't deny them. You can't deny them the opportunity to move forward with that. Whether or not the other projects move forward, we don't know that. And so it's dependent on whether or not, the marketing of those lots, whether they're going to get building permits. It really shouldn't affect whether or not the Metzlers get their rezoning and their district boundary amendment. We've showed you this before. This is the existing single family residence. One of the in the KCDP, there is a provision which says they really want the South Kohala CDP. In the South Kohala CDP, one of the policies is that you want the things that are developed to be developed in the Waimea in compliance with the Waimea design style. What Kapolei Land and the Messlers are going to do is they're going to record CCNRs to make sure that any of the residences on that back lot will be developed in that style. So that's just another way that it's compliant with the South Kohala CDP. So the last time there was a lot of questions about community engagement. And Joni Metzler contacted close to 50 business owners and leaders in the community. This is prior to when the project was initiated, basically. And all of the support letters are contained in your exhibit list. As I mentioned before, we went to the South Kohala Traffic Committee. There were comments there about the number of driveways. We addressed those in this application. The Metzlers made additional personal contact prior to June 20th, the last hearing, and they even made contact after the last hearing. I wanted to turn it over to John and Joni because community engagement seemed to be a really important thing to everyone last time. So John was going to talk a little bit more about all of the efforts with community engagement that they made.
Thank you. Mr. Metzler? You have to unmute. Unmute.
Mute. Can you hear me now?
We can. Thank you.
Aloha kako, Chair DeFranco, Planning Commissioners, and Planning Director Kern. My name is John Metzler. I reside in Hawaii, and my family purchased our first home in Waimea in 1972. Just did the math. That was 52 years ago. I'm here to support hearing items 3 and 4. First of all, thanks for allowing me to speak at this hearing as a representative of the applicant and as a supplement to our prior presentation. And thank you for your understanding of our inability to be with you in person today. I'm concerned that there may be some confusion as to our prior efforts to reach out to our community regarding this project. As was stated earlier, we've contacted well over 50 individuals, families within the area, and owners of nearby businesses, since obviously some of the activity or the proposed activity will be business activity on Mamalahoa Highway. We contacted them at various times during this process for several years now, some in person, others by phone and email, out of respect for their time and privacy. Their letters of support are included with the materials submitted with our application. Only a small part of our contact with our immediate neighbors was done solely for this meeting. Some of the folks in support of our project and whose letters in support you have include many longtime residents who have contributed much to our community. They include Mr. Pono von Holt, Mr. Roger Harris, who testified today, Mr. Chuck Erskine, who was with First Hawaiian Bank in Waimea for many, many years, Walter Kyoto, longtime, probably born and raised in Waimea, Ivan Rivera, Fred Nonaka, who I'm sure you all know well, Jerry Hyatt, Tim McCullough, a farmer, Kent Lindsay, Russell Kuai, Emilia Dow, Max Yarowamai, who's a longtime resident and employee at HPA, Shannon Aviero, Dave Hanma, Dave Tamura, Mike Fujimoto, many others. And please know that every person who signed and sent in written support for the project did so at their own choosing. I think that's important because it has been intimated that, you know, these were selected people and they were forced somehow to sign a form letter, but that's really not true. We believe their signatures to the letters of support means that they have considered the project on its own merits and have offered their positive support in writing to you, the commissioners. After the last meeting, or hearing, I guess I should say, Joni reached out to several neighbors, Mr. Garfinkel, Ms. Counter, and Mr. Kawano. She explained our plans to each and listened to their opinions. We also reached out again to Ms. Nancy Carr Smith, and I understand she supports the project and has testified today in support of. There has been some public discussion regarding the 3 commercial lots to be located on Mamaloa Highway, and some have objected to a 2-story building. In response, we've removed all notation of any 2-story structures on these lots. The project's planner, Michael Ream, tried very hard to draw buildings that would have fit and will fit with the architecture of the community. Buildings like the Spencer House, the old Georgia service station across the street, and the Hayashi store. These, we thought, would be helpful for the community to visualize the rural nature of the buildings, but they were only conceptual. And again, we have removed these from our presentation. As an aside, the property used to be zoned commercial 7.5. That zoning was rescinded several years ago. Now we were asking for commercial 10, which means actually less density than the prior zoning allowed. We intend to keep the commercial buildings and parking space count to a minimum, but we've done our best to present a conservative picture of the project. With regard to some of the prior opposition testimony, please know, Commissioners, that most of the written testimony previously submitted was generated from a website, and many of the testifiers don't even live in Hawaii, much less in Waimea. We question the validity of some of this testimony, as they didn't have any verifiable information attached to these forms other than a name and an email address, no other contact information, and questionable zip codes. It's been brought to our attention that at least one of the people who was supposedly part of this opposition group was unaware that her name was used and has asked that it be stricken. I think that is in your Planning Commission records. We've received positive recommendations from the Planning Department, from the South Koala Traffic Safety Committee, and no objections from Water Supply, Transportation, Department of Health, DLNR Forestry and Wildlife, and State Historic Preservation Division, the State Office of Planning and Sustainable Development, and other community groups. And we will do a great job of keeping the property true to Waimea's heritage and culture. The commercial component of the property is along the existing corridor of commercial property in Waimea, and the small egg lots will provide needed opportunities for our young families to create a place to live, raise their families, and grow crops to feed and nourish their families and our community. We hope that the commission makes their decision based on the rules and regulations established by our community, and if approved, we will do our very best to make Waimea proud of our addition to the community. Mahalo.
Thank you. Mrs. Metzler? Did you want to add to that?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is Joni Metzler, and I'd like to thank the people who testified on our behalf today. The people who sent in the letters of support, but were not available to testify today. I spoke to many of them, and they wish they could be there, but due to previous commitments, they weren't able to make it. I'd also like to thank the Leeward Planning Commissioners for your careful consideration of our plans to rezone and subdivide our property at Pu'ukapu. Sorry. My husband and I have been good stewards of the land, and the improvements on the land will be culturally and aesthetically positive and a positive addition to the Kamwela community for many years to come. I appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you.
We just had a couple last slides to share if you
Okay.
care. Wanted to address some of the forum comments too about spot zoning. If you recall, this property is in between two other commercially zoned properties along Maumaloha Highway. Across the street, the same thing. There's commercial zoning across the street. So not spot zoning, consistent with the general plan. At the last meeting, people brought up flooding. And you can build in a flood zone. And one of the conditions that the planning director attached to the rezoning ordinance, the proposed ordinance, was that all development generated runoff is disposed of on site. And he is also requiring the applicant to do a drainage study and prepare that, and any recommended drainage improvements shall be constructed, meeting with the approval of DPW prior to occupancy of any proposed structures. The planning director is also requiring compliance with Chapter 27, which is the floodplain management. So those issues have been addressed in the conditions that are attached to the rezoning. And the same is true for traffic. A TIR was done, recommendations were done, which were in your background report. But the planning director is also requiring that prior to plan approval, there needs to be another TIR that the applicant does. And another evaluation. And if there are traffic impacts attributed to the development, the applicant shall be required to provide the appropriate traffic mitigation improvements at no cost to the state. And so all of those items, I think that the Planning Commission was concerned about, I think they have been addressed. This project is consistent with the general plan and the policies of the state, and we're going to urge you
So just
to.
quick
Yes.
question for you.
Mhm.
One of the people testifying that lived there had a question about driveways and access, and I just wanted to make sure that we addressed that because it had to do with, he was confused whether there was 6 driveways or 2
No,
driveways.
there's one.
One
Right,
drive.
so Mama
And
Loa
then
Highway is,
his question was, how would the one driveway relate to the other 3 TMKs?
right, so and I'm gonna clarify, the one driveway is to the commercial. There's
Yes.
one driveway to the commercial and Ishihara Road goes to the residential. So the one to the commercial, right? You end up doing CCNRs or like a shared parking agreement so that the parking can basically go across the 3 parcels. So that's how you do it with one driveway. So there are mechanisms to work with that one driveway. So what we'd ask is that you renew the favorable recommendation based on the planning director's recommendation of the state land use district boundary amendment.
Commissioners, do you have some questions?
Yes, Madam Chair, I have a
Commissioner,
question.
Yes.
Question to Mr. and Mrs. Metzler. Are your intentions for the 5 residential lots in the back, are you going to develop it or are you planning to sell it to local families or just sell it in
Unmute
general?
your mic, Mr. Metzler. Unmute your mic, Mr. Metzler. You have to unmute your mic.
Yes, give me a moment. Well, we will most likely build some culturally appropriate homes there. We want to make them very modest, so they'll be attractive to our younger families.
Like the other house that was shown.
So the answer to your question is you plan on developing yourself or do you plan on selling the properties fee simple?
Well, we're not positive just yet. It's a little early. We don't have all of our plans firmed up. We will do the development of the utilities and they'll all be probably underground utilities. And that'll probably take 2 or 3 years. We don't know how much it's going to cost. We don't know what it will look like. But again, our first instinct is to what you call develop, I think, sir, would be to build some moderate homes on the property. There are already 2 homes there, ranch or plantation style homes, and we will be building something very similar to those.
Thank you.
Commissioner Nobukawa.
Thank you. So Mr. Metzler, in your testimony, you talked about the front portion closest to the road that you had originally had designs for the buildings that would match, that would be consistent with other buildings already in the area. But then you said you changed it to conceptual. I kind of got the impression, and so I want to confirm that you are not planning on actually doing the commercial development for that front part?
You might.
Is that correct?
Well, I think very much it would be the same situation. As you know, it's very expensive these days to provide utilities and access, especially along the highway. We don't know what the highway requirements are going to be yet either. So our intent is to build out the infrastructure, if you will. Well, first, go through the permitting process, which is probably going to be 2 years. And then we would build out the infrastructure. And during that time, we would consider building buildings or selling the lots. The reason we pictured 3 buildings, one on each of the 3 commercial lots, was we thought to help the community understand that we wanted to do something that was fairly small that would fit into the neighborhood. Like I said, I don't know if you guys remember Georgia's service station. It's across the street. It's now a pizza shop. But, you know, that and the Spencer House and some of the others mentioned would hopefully fit well in the community and be welcomed. So that's the plan. We just don't know just yet whether we can afford to build 3 commercial buildings, or if some community member wants to come and build a dentist's office or a little law firm or a medical practice, we would welcome that opportunity and we would work with them to make it happen.
Thank you very much. I have a question for both you and Mrs. Messler. The people that you talked to since our previous hearing, were any of them lineal descendants that were able to give you any information about whether there were burials or not on the properties?
Well, we have a letter from the State Historic Preservation Division that states that there is no impact for this subdivision or for this plan. And so they do mention in every letter of no effect, which is the term they use, that should any burials become exposed or anticipated or even suspected, that all work is to stop, and then a archaeologist is to be engaged and, you know, mitigate any of the EV that might be there.
Yeah, thank you for that. I was basically looking more for Ohana, whether, you know, is reaching out to the community, whether there is connection there made with the Ohana that may be still in the area. But thank you very much for your.
I can answer that. In all the communication with the neighbors, no one ever mentioned anything to that extent.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Messler. Ms. Garson, I have a question that it's going to sound like a broken record. I couldn't find the email from Clinton Yamada to Nancy Burns, the August 4th, 2023 one, that unequivocally stated, no, we have no objection to the single commercial driveway. Is it? I just want to make sure it's part of the official file, just going forward, that, you know, people can find it.
I think Catherine
We've got it.
addressed that.
And I'm going to interrupt for just one moment as we're going to lose Commissioner Paishon Duarte, who needs to leave.
So, all right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Garson. Ms. Garson. No further questions.
Commissioner Rodriguez, do you have a question?
Yes, ma'am. Yes. Do you have this slide here that I don't know if you could put it up? It's in your PowerPoints. It's
That might be the county.
view of the last time. It's a view of the property.
It might be. Is that the county's presentation, or was that their?
It was their presentation on the PowerPoints. 2023-06 15 PD PowerPoint presentation view across property.
Okay, that was the planning department's
That's the
presentation.
planning department. That's the planning department.
That's the planning. Okay.
Yeah, that's not the applicant.
Okay.
That would be Maya, but we're not, but she's,
Yes, okay, yeah, yeah. I just wanted to point out to the bottom picture, my grandfather, he was a Native American, and I spent, grew up as Native American most of my life, and then you see the bigger things, those are cattails, and my grandfather, would say that whenever you grow cattails, that's God's drinking fountain, because they need water to grow, and they only grow in water. And as I got older, when I served in the military,
You have to ask a question. Okay, okay.
yeah,
You have to ask a question.
okay, yeah, in your opinion, are those cattails up?
Are those cattails? Is that what you're asking?
Yes,
Your video on?
There are no cattails on the property.
There's no cattails.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, do we have any other questions? Are you done with your responses? Yes, thank you.
Yes,
Okay,
we can answer any further questions.
all right. Thank you. All right, so we are at our place of a motion for actions. Public testimony is now closed.
Madam Chair, I'm prepared to make
Yes,
a motion.
Commissioner Au.
I move that a favorable recommendation be forwarded to the county council in the application for a state land use boundary amendment, docket number PLSLU 2022-00008, based on the planning director's recommendation, which shall be adopted.
I need a second, please.
Second.
I have a second by Commissioner Noibora. We're now on the table for discussion. So
Thank you, Madam
please,
Chair.
Start with Commissioner Au.
So I believe that this project is appropriate for the designation and for the area. They're consistent with the general plan, the South Kohala CDP. I believe that it is an appropriate project, but the community does not want it. From our last meeting to now, there was all these letters that were submitted. Granted, a lot of them are form letters in opposition, but nonetheless, it is, the community does not want it. The reason why the reason why I made the motion is for what I stated, that it's consistent with the general plan and the CDP. And I just hope moving forward, wherever this motion goes and wherever this project ends up being, that the landowner and the applicant continues the conversation with the community, because the community does not want it. And just, that's my comments.
Thank you, Commissioner Noibora.
So I also agree that it's consistent with a lot of things with official documents from the county. It also, in my mind, will be acting as a buffer. That back half of the property would be acting as a buffer between any higher intensity of land use adjacent to the road, where there are much more infrastructure to have it be a much higher level of intensity. So it'll act as an appropriate buffer between that higher density and the agricultural areas that are behind it. What would it be? South of it, I guess. And that's why I'm favorable to this.
Commissioner Rodriguez.
Yes, I'm against, I tried to, put in my head, and I thought about, how we could be fair to Mr. Metzler and be fair to the community. But I think, he is within the rules, and, but, I just feel that if we approve it, that, I just feel that, when I did my military service, I was a combat engineer, and we had this colonel order us to build a landing pad for a helicopter. And I know you're not going to land helicopters, but you're planning on putting a structure. And it was easier to cut down some of this cattails, some of this bamboo that grows in water, and then to go up to a little higher ground and cut down trees. So we did as we were ordered. But as the first helicopter landed, we brought in dirt, we built it up, and the first helicopter just sank. And I think, if we approve this, I think, you come in and, fill this in, but we're going to do injustice to whoever buys the lots later on. They're going to have structural problems. And, there's been cities built on this type of terrain. And, I think you should be allowed to build, but, more in the front and keep the back more open. So, you need somewhere where the water to run off. And like I mentioned,
Favorable.
in the past, I grew up, my grandfather was Indian. I grew up and, we call those God's water fountains because, we used to drink water out of the river, but the river would dry up and, where this cattails grew, it was always water there. So that's why I'm against the project because of the possible, implications to later on. And people aren't gonna, see that, it could be covered up. So, thank you.
We're gonna have enough people.
So, when we're here with our motion on a table, this is a discussion because prior to putting it on the table, we can't talk to each other. So it's for us as a commission really to have listened to everything that everybody's saying and then talk to each other about how we feel about something. Okay, so. Okay.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner
yeah, I just want to
Ramos?
make a few more comments to my fellow
Yes.
commissioners. So, this is for the state land use boundary amendment. And the comment I'm gonna make is actually for the next agenda item. But, I asked the question to Mr. Metzler about what his intentions are, with the 5 lots in the back.
Okay, so this is what the motion we're discussing right now.
Is the state land use. Should I wait? Because I don't know what's
Yes,
gonna happen
I
with
would
the
wait.
next. Okay,
Because right now
Right now, we only have a motion on the floor for
for
number
the state
3.
land use. Okay, yeah, I just don't know what the procedure is and if I'm gonna get to make a comment for that. I
Yeah.
don't know what's gonna happen.
We'll have a discussion of number 4 after number 3.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you. I'll hold my comment for number 4.
Okay. So I guess my comment, is there any other comments from the commissioners? Okay, so my comment is, this has been a very long time coming with many meetings and there was a lot of, from all of us, here it was back on our agenda, so we all are dealing with procedural things. And it's a very good thing because if someone if the land is in a certain designation, if it's in certain criteria has already been approved by the state, by the county, we as a commission certainly are looking, those are the parameters that we have to look at to make a decision. That's where your decision is made, is from that place. So we know that when they've explained to us and the planning department has explained to us, if there is flooding or anything like that, they have to go through a whole mitigation over that. It isn't like because we're going to give a decision that this just happens. This doesn't just happen. This is just the beginning of them having to comply with all sorts of other things that are going to be put down there for them to comply with. So every time that this applicant has come before us and we have asked them to do something as a commission, they've done it. They've complied each time with trying to listen to what the community is saying, listen to what we have asked them to do, and then to redo their project to comply. And this last one, and I think I heard this correctly, was in the front, the commercial area in the front, that you said something about even, because it's all conceptual plans of even reducing no second story. I thought I heard something like that said today. Again, that was something we asked them about, to be sensitive to that. So for me, I am for this project, and I'm saddened that the community, a lot of the members of the community are not for it, but a lot of them are for it. So there is a division going on here that's hard for us to sit here and understand, really. But we also have to look at what their allowances they're given as people owning land and what the requirements are for them to develop it. And they're well within, in my opinion, well within what they're asking for. So I am going to vote for this. And I think we're now a smaller quorum, so there's 4 votes here, just so the commissioners understand. We're down 1 commissioner, so we have 4 people. For us to have a motion that goes forward, all 4 of us have to agree. Is that right? If we don't agree, then nothing happens, right? Is that right? This is the corporate
Yes.
council, please. Lawyer.
Okay, and I'm referring to county charter, section 8, H. Hold on a second, let me give you the section number. Section 13(4)H, subsection H, the affirmative vote of a majority of the entire membership to which a board is entitled shall be necessary to make any action valid. I think this was raised earlier by a testifier, where there was a statement that boards that are advisory only need only a majority of those present. This commission is both advisory and quasi-judicial, adjudicative.
So it has.
So we have to have a majority of the membership to which we're entitled. So we do need 4.
Right. And so that was why I was taking the time to sort of talk through with this a little bit, because of the flood concern, that somewhere in this process, if we were to approve this, they are not going to permit it to go forward if there is the possibility of this land being flooded to the detriment of the people that buy in the future. This is where it's all caught. You catch it. So that's why we can do what we're supposed to do. And the planning department and those people are going to do what they're supposed to do about floodplains and mitigation. Okay. So,
Madam Chair?
yes,
I have a few more comments.
please.
So I also do support the motion that I made, and, I just want to make it clear to our fellow commissioners that, we look at things, the planning department and our commission, we look at things and we want to make sure that it's safe, it's appropriate for the area, it's within all the guidelines that the planning department follows. And this project, again, is very appropriate, and there's a lot more conversations that are just going to happen. And there's going to be a lot more community members that are going to come out and be against this project. And I think, in fairness for the applicant, they've been listening to the community. They have been, and they are. And there's even more people that are against it in the 170 testimonies that came in from our last commission meeting. So, in due fairness for the applicant, I believe that we should continue to give them a chance, because they're trying their best, and the community is going to try their best. And that's really all everybody can do, is put their best foot forward, whether they oppose it or support the project.
Vince Rodriguez,
Commissioner,
you're on again.
what am I hearing?
You're
Commissioner Rodriguez.
Yes, I understand about, the laws and the rules, but I don't know if we're supposed to, just go by what the state, rules, or why are we here? That's what I understand, because if you say that, we're supposed to look at something if it's safe, and I don't see it, this, flooding back here, I don't see it as being safe, for me to say yes to it, you know, so, so I don't understand. Thank you.
Educate him.
So I appreciate all your comments, but again, we're at this position right now where we're looking at if there is going to be a problem with flooding, it is going to have to go before the planning and the flooding. We don't have to look at a picture of it and think, something that has happened or that it looks like cattails, but it's not cattails. You don't have to feel liable. I don't think we have a liability there because it is going to be investigated as it moves along. There's going to be a lot of more hopefully community dialogue. I think that several points, it's interesting because this is a small thing. When I first started to look at these things a year ago when we had this happening and was presented to us, when I read the letters of opposition, I imagined that they were going to build a Walmart and put in monster homes. This is what it sounded like to me. But when I started to see the presentation and the careful and appropriate responses from the applicant, I had to say, well, thank you. Thank you for doing this. It's not those things. I didn't have to be fearful of those things because that wasn't what was happening. They even gave us the visual pictures of what was happening. So every time that they come in here and they've looked for something, they have done a better job. And even today, they've made a big effort to go out again, to reach out to people, and they're listening to us now. So as they go forward, I know that they're hearing what you're saying, Commissioner Rodriguez. So for us to go forward, like I say, because we're down one commissioner left, the four of us would have to agree. If we don't agree, then nothing happens. Are there any more? You want to take a look?
Chair, yeah, I'm sorry, I
Excuse
did
me.
interrupt. I believe Mr. Messler wanted to say something.
Is that appropriate? I'm sorry, I'm not having a dialogue. Public testimony is closed now.
Thank you.
Yeah, so it's really,
Wow.
unless the commissioners have a direct question.
Have a question.
Who's that? Who is it? I don't know who that is.
It has to go.
Madam-
through planning.
Madam Chair, I do have a question, but it's not for the
It's for the
state
next
land
one?
use. Yeah, it's for the next one.
Yeah,
I'll-
so
I'll just hold
probably
up my
we'll-
question.
Yeah, I think we have to wait for that one to be on the table, for that motion to be on the table.
I can answer any questions if
Thank you, Mr. Metzler, but right now we're in a different portion of the meeting, so. Yeah.
Since I made the motion, can I ask to defer? Or do we have to take up the motion first?
You can ask to defer. You could also take a break for lunch and come back and finish the discussion after. I don't know if that, a little bit of time. Because we have the second motion as well.
Okay, yeah. If you're, so Madam Chair, I'm fine with that, if we can go to lunch and then,
That's fine if you want to defer or table it.
We just motion to recess.
Motion to
for
recess.
20 minutes.
I'll motion to recess.
Yes.
Second.
All in favor?
I'm
Aye.
sorry,
Aye.
is this just for lunch? Recess
Yes,
for
for lunch.
an hour, right? Okay.
Yeah, actually, it's less than an hour usually. It's 12:30 now. We'd say
30 minutes.
30 minutes, 35 minutes. We'll be back. Okay. Maybe if we get a little blood sugar going. Thank you. Okay, I think we're about done with lunch. Are we almost ready to start? Has it been? So let's take down the recess sign and it's been 30 minutes, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so are we on Zoom now? Oh, we've got to. The recess is over. We need to take down the recess sign. Okay. All right, so we're going to reconvene now. It is 1:09, 1:08. We're going to reconvene. And we have a motion on the floor. Can we just restate the motion that is on the floor right now, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the motion on the floor that I made was I moved that a favorable recommendation before to the county council for on the application for the state land use boundary amendment docket number PL SLU 2022-0008 based on the planning director's recommendation, which shall be adopted.
Okay. So we're still on the floor with a discussion. Do we have any more comments about this? Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me, Mr. Rodriguez.
Yeah.
Commissioner Rodriguez.
Yes, I just wanted to, just to clarify that we're on item 3, that's what we're gonna be, discussing. It's not, doesn't have to, we're not on item 4 yet.
Right,
Yeah, okay.
okay. This is just on item 3. Okay, so we have a first and a second, and so we're going to call for a vote.
Thank you, Chair DeFranco. So the motion is to forward a favorable recommendation to the county council as recommended by the planning director for the state land use boundary amendment. Commissioner Au,
Aye.
Commissioner Noborikawa,
Aye.
Commissioner Rodriguez,
Yes, with the conditions that, some of the flood,
You can say with reservations.
yes, with reservations.
Okay.
and Chair DeFranco.
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes 4-0.
May I clarify? It is I. And any reservations might be related to number 4, the next one?
Yes.
Yes, yeah, because I'm concerned with the number 4 with the flooding.
So you don't have any reservations for number 3?
Reservations is just the easement to for the properties, but I think that was addressed already. So
It was an I?
yes.
Thank you.
Okay. So now we are going to take a motion for action for the PLREZ 2022-00039. Is that the wrong one? No, that's it, right? This matter was previously decided at the commission's last meeting. The commission may request legal advice in executive session regarding the review of this previous commission actions, or we can have a motion to reconsider. Is that correct?
If there's a request for legal advice about sample motions, there is a confidential memo that was provided to you with that outlined all
the different motions,
various
so
motions that
does-
can
Does
be
anybody want to make a motion?
utilized. I'm also happy to go into executive session to answer any legal questions you might have.
Okay. So give us a minute.
Madam Chair, I'm prepared to make a motion
You ready
rather
to make-
than, I'm prepared to make a motion for number 4, or do we need to go through the presentation again? What is the process?
You make a motion to reconsider. No.
No, he can.
No, oh, yeah, so I would love, I would like to make a motion for application number 4. I move that a favorable recommendation.
In order to, we would first have to do a motion to rescind because an unfavorable recommendation has already been moved on. And there was a vote, so we have an unfavorable recommendation at this point. If there is a motion to rescind, that nullifies any prior action so that you still have on the record the unfavorable and then the motion to rescind. And then after the motion to rescind, there can be a renewal of a motion. Reconsideration cannot happen because the prior motion happened at another meeting. So a motion to reconsider is not an option here. There are options. We can simply continue to the next agenda item. We can have a motion to rescind, at which point then you can have a renewal motion.
Okay, I understand. Thank you for the clarification. I'm prepared to make a motion. I move that we rescind the motion for the negative recommendation for PL Resolution 2022-00039.
Second.
Do I need to state the date that we made the
Prior meeting.
prior meeting to the prior Leeward Planning Commission meeting?
Second.
Second. So now we can discuss this. Okay, so this process is like that. It's like you have to make the motion to get it on the table so we can even talk about it. And this is about the motion to rescind, motion that was made at the last meeting, right?
Yes.
I think that vote was 5-1 or something. What was it? 5-1? Yes. So, the reason that we do this really is so that we can go forward to discuss this whole thing. Is that right?
Is there a discussion of the motion to rescind? We may perhaps ask the maker of the motion to state his reasons for making the motion. And then we would ask the other commissioners their opinion.
So the reason to rescind the negative recommendation is so we can have further discussion and, talk about various issues that other fellow commissioners have.
Right. Okay. And it was that, and
Yeah, I'm in concurrence with that.
okay. So do you concur with that?
Yeah, to me, I'm favorable against, passing it just because, the flood issues I see and it's gonna affect the other neighbors.
Right, but
So-
right, so that's the next step. So this step, we just have to
Yes.
rescind it, so then we go to the next step.
Okay.
Is that clear?
The motion to rescind, it basically has the effect of undoing what happened in the prior meeting. It just says that action is no longer what we as a commission wish to stand by. I don't know how you feel about that, undoing that prior action.
I wish it to leave it as it was voted before, I don't want to rescind.
So that ends it? That's now we have to vote. So again, I just want to make clear that if we rescind it, then we can go and discuss what you wanted to. But if you don't rescind it, then it's just done.
So Madam Chair.
Yeah, yes.
So Madam Chair, I have a few comments for discussion. The reason why I would like to rescind, there's, like my other fellow commissioners, there's other things that I would like to discuss with the applicant. And I believe this is our venue to do it.
Right.
to address the questions that I have. But in order for me to present that, I need to be able to talk to the applicant, and this is a venue. This is an option or a venue that we can do that. So other commissioners, if you guys got issues with flood or the Hawaiian cultural importance of the project, I support my motion because that's what I want to do, is I want my questions answered. So I will be in favor of the motion that I just made.
Okay. Okay, so we vote then on this?
All right, thank you, Chair. The motion is to rescind the commission's prior decision made at the previous meeting. Commissioner Ao,
Aye.
Commissioner Noborikawa,
Aye.
Commissioner Rodriguez,
No.
and Chair DeFranco.
Aye.
Okay, the motion fails 3-1.
So then we have nothing, we're gonna move on now. Okay. So, thank you. So we're gonna move on to the new business agendas 5 and 6 has been deferred, is that right? And
I think we do need to inform the applicant that they will be notified of the commission's decisions in writing.
okay, thank you. So we come back to the agenda item number 7 of training.
Yeah. Number 5 and 6. Sorry.
5 and 6 has been deferred.
Deferred to a future meeting.
Right, so, sorry, the agenda items 5 and 6 has been deferred to a future meeting. But if there's any public testimony on 5 and 6 that can be heard now, is there any on Zoom?
No, there are no testifiers for items 5 or 6.
Okay. Then if there's no testifiers, the item is closed for public testimony. And we have on our agenda the Planning Commission training. And I'm thinking, well, I do, but I am just thinking that there's so few, few people here. It would be nice if we had more people here for the training, if we could defer this to a future. Yes, I'd like to. Yes, I'm looking for.
I can make that motion.
Okay.
I'd like to move that we move our planning commission training to the next Leeward Planning Commission meeting.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
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 Okay. Any opposed? Okay. Ayes carry it. So we're gonna defer it to another. So, planning director's report, the report on the special SMA determinations and minor permits issued by the planning director for the month of June 2024. The SMA report for June was distributed via email. Do you have any questions about that, commissioners? Commissioner Rodriguez, any questions?
No.
No. Okay. Commissioner Au, you need a minute? You okay? Okay.
No questions.
Okay. So agenda items for the next meeting. Is there any matters that any of the commissioners would like to agendize for the Commissioner Au?
No.
No. No. Okay. Announcements, please, from the Leeward Planning Commission. Next regular meeting is scheduled for Thursday, August 15th, 2024. Here in the County Council chambers in Kona, and the public can also testify via Zoom. The date and venue of the meeting are subject to change. Does the staff have any other announcements, please? Ms. Jackson?
Yes, Chair. So for your August 15th meeting, you have 8 items tentatively scheduled on the agenda. And then with the Planning Commission training, we'll add that as well.
For your September meeting, we're trying to coordinate approximately 2-hour training with the state coastal zone management office on coastal zone management and special management area issues.
Okay, thank you. So if there's no further business, I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
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 All opposed? Ayes carry it. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Oh,
Nice afternoon, y'all. Aloha.
aloha. Thank you, Mr. Roy.
Thank you.
Closed captions transcript will be terminated shortly, and those who wish to save the transcript should do so now.
Sounds like an AI. That's a great boy. Yeah, doesn't he a little bit?